Welcome to the press conference for Casablanca Beats, which is in competition at the 74th Cannes Film Festival. The press conference is happening, and Spike Lee is no doubt extremely interested. I'd like to introduce the people in the film. I'll begin with my left. The two composers, Mike and Fabian Kortzer, a.k.a. They have often written the music for Nabil AYOUCH's films. And it's very much of a group film, so rather than introducing the actors myself, I would like them to tell us their name and say a few words about who they are. So we'll start at the far end of the table with the actress. We have here Nouhaila ARIF. Could you tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself? I'm going to be a nurse. I'm in my second year of nursing studies.
السلام عليكم مريم نقاش عندي دبلوم ديال ديزاين d'intérieur.
I have an interior design diploma, and I'm also studying plastic arts in addition to being an artist, an actress.
Elle travaille aussi dans les arts plastiques et aujourd'hui en tant qu'artiste.
اسماعيل أدواب 21 عام دبلوم انجيد صون.
Ismail Adweb, I'm 21 years old, and I have a degree in sound engineering.
سامح باريغو عندي 22 عام ليسانسيé en génie mécanique.
I have a degree in mechanical engineering.
Bonjour à tous.
Hello.
Je m'appelle Anas.
My name is Anas.
Artiste hip-hop.
I'm a beat-bop artist, and I work for a foundation. I'm also the artistic director for an entity called New District, and I'm very pleased to be with you here as an actor today.
Et ensuite, the leader of the band, il s'agit de son 7e long métrage.
And the boss of the band, this is his second or third time in Cannes, after much loved, and a number of other films. So we have Nabil AYOUCH, the director of the film.
Nabil, peut-être pas pris
Nabil,
à la place. Est-ce que vous pourriez nous parler
could you talk to us about
dans votre jeunesse,
your youth and hip-hop and the cultural center?
C'était une planche de salut, en fait, tout simplement.
It was my saving grace, in fact, in Sarcelles, in the suburbs of Paris, where I grew up. It was a very green area, full of high-rise buildings. And it's there that I was able to understand who I really was. I was able to understand also that one could have several identities. That's not a scourge, but rather it's a source of great personal interest. I learned to sing. I spent days in the library. I saw lots of films by Chaplin and others. I learned to talk about the cinema and to understand the world. I don't think I would have become a director if I hadn't, for a couple of years, spent so much time in this cultural center. And hip-hop, when you were young?
C'était cette époque dont je vous parle.
Well,
début des
at
années
that
80,
time, at the beginning of the
c'est l'arrivée
80s,
en fait des premiers sons hip-hop
we had
pour
the
nous
first
des
hip-hop
États-Unis.
coming from the United States.
Des gars comme Grandmaster
Guys
Flash,
like
comme,
Grandma
Bambaataa,
Splash, for Africa Bambaataa,
les premiers mouvements de Smurf,
the
de
first
breakdance, et tout
smash
ça.
and breakdance
Et autour de moi, dans les rues de
movements.
Sarcelles,
And all this was happening in the streets of Sarcelles as I grew up.
musique des ghettos,
I could see this ghetto music, this music full of political and social demands,
elle était puissante.
and I felt it was so very powerful.
Nous, dans les banlieues
In
parisiennes,
the Paris outskirts, I realized we could use this music to turn it into a way of asking for certain things ourselves. I was a little child with stars in my eyes, and then music this music became better known and lost some of its attraction for me. Music came from the US, went to Europe, and then went to the Arab world. And a whole generation of rappers who have huge talent in Morocco, in the Arab world, espouse this form of music. And hip-hop became a real means of expression, pushing for major changes. And that's quite fabulous in this music. Before we start the discussion, I would ask you to put your masks on. You can remove the masks when you want to take the floor. We have to be a good example. We have a question here. I have a question from Morocco. Your film is so lively and vibrant. Thank you. I have a question for Nabil AYOUCH. On the whole, your films are almost like documentaries. They're very realistic. I'd like to know what share of fiction and what share of reality there is in this film. The film is like rap music from beginning to end. How did you put things together in this way?
Alors, tout a commencé.
Everything began,
L'histoire du film, le
the
jour
history
où,
of the film,
dans ce centre culturel à Sidi
in
Moumen,
this cultural center in Sidi Moumen, which I created with some friends.
ce monsieur à ma droite,
The
Anas,
gentleman, Anas, on my right, turned up. He said, I'm a former rapper.
j'ai plus envie de rapper, mais par
I don't
contre,
want to rap anymore, but I do want to convey the values and the culture of hip-hop to young people. And for me, this idea of transmission is very important. My mother was a teacher, and I know what it's like to hand things down to young people and children.
Et donc on lui a dit oui.
Teachers play such an important role. And so we said yes, together with Sofia, who runs the center. And we began this fabulous work with the young people. And I watched them, I observed them, I admired them. I came to attend the classes and the concerts, and I thought they had tremendous talent. All the people up here today have fabulous talent, and I wanted to meet them.
Qui a duré 5-6 heures.
And instead of lasting for an hour, our meeting lasted for several hours, and I decided to make a film. Work began in a rather special way. I didn't really know where I was going. I knew I wanted to depict this reality. I wanted to depict this authenticity. I wanted to understand what lay behind the words and the moving bodies, the dancing bodies. And they opened up to me, and I started to write. I started to write a film
Tourner,
and to shoot it
à monter,
and to edit it
et de nouveau à écrire.
and write again, shoot, edit, for 3 years
Dans une liberté la plus totale.
with total freedom. And I'd like to thank my partners, those who gave me their support. It's very rare for a director to have partners who understand my method of work and who accept to play the game. And bit by bit, I said to myself that I didn't want to make a documentary. I really wanted to build a storyline with their stories in which I could really recognize each and every one of them. And this fell into place bit by bit, gradually.
Avec toujours une volonté très forte.
I had this strong desire to do away with differences, borders. You never know where fiction starts and stops.
Puisque vous avez parlé des comédiens qui vous entourent,
You talked about the actors. I'd like to say that several of them are sitting in the room. Unfortunately, we couldn't seat everyone up at the rostrum, but we're very happy that they're here for the film.
Oui, Amine.
And they were here to hear the applause of the public.
bravo.
Congratulations.
Chad, you had a question. Il y a la traduction par les écouteurs. Chad va parler en anglais.
Now, my name is Chaz Ebert from the Chicago Sun-Times and RogerEbert.com, and I must apologize, I have to ask in English, okay? Monsieur Ayouch, I have to tell you, I am thrilled to see you and this beautiful assemblage of faces here and here at this festival. This is indeed a world stage. I've been coming to this festival for many years, and there is sort of a game that the critics and the press play saying, who is the president of the jury? And how will the president's, the personality or the movie preferences of the president play in giving the Palme d'Or or any prizes? This is a historic year, especially for me to see Spike Lee, the first African American in the 74 years of the Cannes Film Festival, and to see you here with this in competition. Have you had any thoughts about how Spike Lee, as the president of the juror, might see your film? Because your film has both music and message. And I just want to say thank you and congratulations.
Well, of course, for me, it was a great news when I've heard that Spike Lee would be president of the jury, because this is someone that I respect and I admire his work since a very long time. His films inspired me so much as a film director, as a citizen also. Yeah, you know, we had no idea of what could happen this year. The film was ready last year for Cannes 2020, and it didn't happen. I just decided to wait and see what's going to come. And it came yesterday evening, and I'm very happy and very moved.
Sir, yes.
Bonjour, félicitations.
Congratulations to you and the entire team. Congratulations, Anas. You're quite magnificent in the film. When I watched the film, and as I'm familiar with your preceding films, Nabil, the distance between Sarcelles in France and Sidi Moumen in Casablanca is not that big when you think about it. The colors are the same, you have the same low-cost housing buildings and slums. So whenever there is an autobiographical touch in your films, it's always a success. Do you think this is your most autobiographical film?
Non, c'est effectivement mon film le plus.
Yes, it is the most autobiographical film I've ever made.
À des moments de vie de mon enfance.
It refers to times that date from my youth. When I started to understand more about my Moroccan identity, it was thanks to the camera, it was thanks to the cinema. And that's when I really started deeply to love the Moroccan soul and the country. And I discovered all the different levels of the country, its huge diversity, going into the hinterland of Morocco, not the big cities in Morocco, which I was familiar with as a child. I went to reach out to this human soul going into the peripheral areas in the suburbs, like where I grew up, going to Sidi Moumen, for example. And indeed, I noted that what I lived in my own childhood was exactly what was happening in these suburbs and down-and-out areas in Morocco. In France, in Morocco, in the US, I realized there were similarities. This lack of recognition for certain social classes, this feeling that some people are second-class citizens, that no one pays attention to them. And if something doesn't come to heal all of this, if it's not art, if it's not culture, then I think quickly this can all fall apart and give rise to something very different. Except that when you say to young people in Sidi Moumen or elsewhere that violence should not be a form of expression, if they're not offered other means of expression, then it's as though one had done nothing at all, and one achieves nothing. I was keenly interested, therefore, in this kind of work when I created this center and depicted in the film. Also, I wanted to create bridges and links between my childhood and what I discovered later. With the talent that you see up here amongst these young people, they themselves managed to write the story of their own lives so that other people don't write the story for them.
Anas, vous avez une présence cinématographique.
Anas, you are incredible in the film. Your face, the way you look, your presence contributes a great deal to the film. Could you talk to us about how you met Nabil and how you went about your work? Well, the first day I came to this center, I wanted to create this program for hip-hop culture so other people could learn all about it. It was a special day. Nabil came to attend one of my artistic creations, which really drew his attention. And he continued, therefore, to follow the project very closely for about a year. We talked together, met together several times. I love working with hip-hop and bebop artists. And it's so interesting to see what these young kids want to talk about, what interests them. Then one day we organized a meeting between myself, Nabil, and the young people. Nabil wanted to meet them in person. He wanted to hear firsthand what they had to say. All the young people shared their lives, their stories with us. It was very moving, very touching. And that was when the idea for the film was born. Thank you. Later on, we may hear from the other actors. Hello? I have 2 or 3 short questions. How did you work on the music in this film? A question for Mr. BASBOUSI. What does it feel like when Nabil AYOUCH asks you to play your own person? And I'd like to put the question to the actors too. What's it like to have Nabil AYOUCH as a director? What does he say to you? What do you feel? How do you talk together? You're not professional actors. Nabil AYOUCH directs you. Could you tell us what it was like as an experience? And then a last question for Nabil AYOUCH. I'm very familiar with your preceding films. This is the first time you've directed such a huge number of actors. Some of the scenes are quite magnificent. They're group scenes. How did you deal with these scenes? How did you work on the music? It's your most musical film, perhaps. People are making music and dancing. How did you put all this together in your film? Okay, first question on the music. We know each other quite well, Nabil and I, and he called on us to do the film with him. We decided to go to Morocco, we went to Casablanca, we went to the center, we visited the city, we met the young people, and right away we became deeply attached to these young people at the center. We decided to record the artists in the center directly, live, and everything just fitted together so happily. It's very autobiographical, the film. It also tells our story. We learned a great deal from them. Their energy, their strength motivated us when we began. The first time we listened to rap was in '78, and that revolutionized our lives. We loved rap as of a very early age. It inspired us in our music. The first bit of rap we heard was like a film for us. We viewed it as a short film. And when we went to Casablanca and talked with all the artists in the center, we saw the same energy and strength which had motivated us so much in our career. We created very strong bonds with all the artists, with Anas, who's here with us. We don't understand Arabic, and he translated the lyrics for us. So everything fell into place very, very happily, very naturally. We were extremely enthusiastic. There was a huge atmosphere of trust. We created this sort of inner circle of people which made it possible to achieve the final result, the film, which we found extremely moving. The second question was, what's it like to be yourself as an actor? Well, Nabil AYOUCH offered me a part in this film, and that perhaps, well, I consider the film as the biggest bit of rap in my entire career. It enabled me to express myself vis-à-vis all these young people, and in so doing, I realized I still had lots of things to say. Thank you. And what about the actors? What was it like working with Nabil AYOUCH on this film?
وغادي نخدم الموسيقى ديالو وغادي نخدم انا واناس حيت اناس ديجا كنا كنخدموا في لو سونتر ديجا بوزيتيف سكول اي ابري خدمنا داكشي ديال الموسيقى في الاسلام سواء في الالبوم ديال لو فيلم اي كانت واحد الاكسبيريونس زوينه.
It was an exceptional experience for me. In addition to doing rap music in the center and working with Anas, we had this first opportunity to be in a film, thanks to Nabil AYOUCH. I was an actor. I worked on the soundtrack of the film with the artists who worked on the music. You have this whole musical side to the film, which was very important. Would anyone like to add anything to that? No. The last part of the question was for Nabil.
Sur le travail,
well,
d'abord, la première partie de votre question sur le travail musical.
The first part of the question concerns the music.
C'est la troisième fois qu'on collabore.
It's the third time we've worked together with Fabien and Mike, with Much Loved and Maktoub. I have great respect for their talent, for their music, which I absolutely love. And I just asked one thing of them. I asked them to create the soundtrack of the film, but before doing that, I asked them to come to Sidi Moumen in Morocco. I didn't want this to be done in a studio in Morocco, in Paris. They agreed. They were supposed to come for a fortnight. They spent 2.5 months with us, and in the end, they were extremely demanding at all times, and that is why the work you listened to last night in the film is so accomplished. They worked with Anas and all the young people to write the lyrics, to write down the lyrics of the music. The idea was not to come with ready-made lyrics and add that to the music. The idea was to use their own words, which reflects their own reality. And this is work they did with Anas and all the other actors in the film. They also worked on the choreography. There's dancing with Khaled Ben Haleb, a choreographer who I've known for a long time and who does live performances. The idea, in fact, in the film was to look for the right format.
Oui, c'est un film
Yes,
musical,
it's a musical film,
un film social.
but it's also a social film and a political film.
Et j'avais envie de rester dans
I
une...
wanted
D'abord très proche d'eux,
to
proche des corps,
be very close to them, very close to the bodies, the faces, the lyrics, the words. I wanted
une forme très naturaliste.
to have a very natural format in the film.
Le slam, comment
How
le rap,
should I film the slam, the rap? How should I film the choreography, the dancing?
des codes de la comédie musicale classique.
I didn't, of course, want to use the codes of a normal musical,
Ce que j'aime
a
au
conventional
cinéma,
musical. What I love in the cinema is to dig deeper, go deeper into things.
creuse, c'est
And
pas
when you go deeper into things, you never know what you're going to find or when you're going to find it. And then all of a sudden, it appears. It took me 3.5 years
filmer
to hit on the right form for the film. I filmed with my DOPs.
juste pour voir, pour
I just
essayer
wanted to
d'appréhender
try
tout
out
ça,
several
voir
things and see
comment,
how
la classe,
one could
la danse,
depict
le chant,
the music, the singing, the dancing, the more intimate moments, mix this all together to produce a film.
et le groupe, oui, vous avez raison.
And you're right to insist on the group.
En fait, il était aussi là.
In fact,
il était
the
constitué
group was so big because it was already there when I went to Sidi Moumen. It's the hip-hop class. The group was
venir
there already, so I just
d'intérêt pour eux.
wanted to pay keen attention to them and find my rightful place within the group.
Je me suis dit, mais
I said to myself at a moment in time,
est-ce qu'il n'y a pas d'autres jeunes?
aren't there other young people who could act these characters? But in fact, they were there already. And they'd been working with such huge energy for so many years together. So I just came to and tried to find my place within the group.
Nabil, vous avez parlé de l'importance
Nabil,
de donner
you
la
talked
parole à
about
ces
the
jeunes.
importance of giving these people the floor so that they could speak up and say what they think. And what about the demands of young people in Morocco? What is universal in what they're asking for?
C'est important, tout simplement parce que cette jeunesse, elle
All this is very important because these young people have a lot of things to say, a lot of things to talk about.
vous entendez dans le film.
And you hear some of these topics in the films. These are the topics that really interest them, that make them dream sometimes, that upset them. They are questioning all sorts of things. And these questions don't stop at the borders of Morocco. They're questions that all young people are asking themselves in Kinshasa,
Cette jeunesse, elle,
all over the world. These young people
elle revendique un droit à dire, à raconter qui elle
are
est,
demanding to have the right
qui l'empêche
to speak up and be who they are.
parfois, et de trouver les outils, les moyens
These young
pour,
people want to find the means to become emancipated. And that's what really interests me
dans le cinéma et puis
in the cinema,
dans
and in particular
le hip-hop.
in hip-hop. Thank you.
Il y a une question dans la salle.
We have a question in the room.
Bonjour, c'est Alicia Garcia de l'agence de presse espagnole EFE. Je voulais parler de ce que vous avez dit tout à l'heure sur...
You mentioned earlier on about the political and social side of the film, which is quite clear. What about the situation in Morocco?
La lutte totale entre les gens
Is there a complete
et la famille qui sont contre.
struggle or conflict between these young people and their families?
Pour exagérer un peu,
Or did you exaggerate the situation a bit in the film? In other words, does the film depict the real situation in Morocco? Well, Morocco is a very complex country, like most countries. There are people who think
Les arts et la culture
that art and culture
sont une chose qui nous aide, qui nous élève.
help us to become who we are,
En banlieue parisienne,
help
c'est
us
pareil.
to grow as a person. The same is true of the place where I grew up in Paris, in the outskirts of Paris. In the film, you see all these young people going to this cultural center, which is very much like the youth center where I learnt arts and culture when I was young. And then there were people who didn't go to these centers, and I saw how different they were. In Sidi Moumen, parents were a bit mistrustful at the beginning because they didn't know what their kids were going to learn in the center. Thanks to the wonderful work done by the teams and this young woman, in particular Sofia, and her perseverance, I saw the parents come into the center and watch their children on stage and watch them sing. They were very proud of them. I saw things light up in their eyes, and this pride was shared by their children in turn. I can assure you that the young people who went to the center are no longer the same. Anas did such incredible work with them, and this rage, this anger was turned into something very positive and very beautiful. That's the kind of thing that can change a life, can change a destiny, be it in Morocco or elsewhere.
Nabil, merci beaucoup.
Nabil, thank you very much for this magnificent film. Thank you for coming to discuss it with us. Congratulations.